You're watching Money Talks with me, Oscar Subakti. Coming up on the program, Bitcoin tops $100,000 for the first time on hopes that Donald Trump will be kinder to crypto. China bans the export of some crucial chip-making minerals to the US in the latest salvo of their tech war. And the claws are out. Jaguar's new look divides car lovers. Bitcoin has surged past the $100,000 mark for the first time, extending a dramatic rally as investors bet on greater political and regulatory support from US President-elect Donald Trump. The price of the world's largest cryptocurrency climbed as much as 6% on Thursday to $103,800. That's a surge of more than 50% since Trump's November election victory. On Wednesday, the former president nominated crypto advocate Paul Atkins to run the Securities and Exchange Commission, the main market regulator, raising hopes for a more favourable regulatory climate for the industry. Now, Trump has vowed to make the US the Bitcoin superpower of the world and has nominated several crypto enthusiasts to top roles, including Howard Lutnick to run the Commerce Department and Elon Musk to co-head a cost-saving effort dubbed the Department of Government Efficiency. Well, let's get more on this now with Josh Mahoney, who's Chief Market Analyst at Scope Markets. Great to have you back with us, Josh, as always. Firstly, what do you put down this rally behind Bitcoin to? Is it all down to the Trump effect?
I wouldn't say so. I mean, look, ultimately, we've all been talking about what the Trump trade is. So what sectors and industries are going to benefit the most from Donald Trump winning? And crypto was certainly one of them. You could say, arguably, with the fact that Bitcoin topped that 100K mark, you could say it's the best of the Trump trades. However, in my mind, I think it would probably be doing well irrespective. If you look historically, equity markets do well, risk assets do well once we see the fear and the uncertainty of an election out the way. Generally, we see markets booming at the back end of the year, October, November kind of time, especially in election years. That's generally November. And coming at the same time that we've got the post-halving period, which is generally once every 4 years, we see this massive boom, which lasts 12 to 18 months. We're at the beginning of that sort of first part of that. All of that really comes together at the same time that it feels like suddenly we've got Wall Street, the SEC, and the White House all on side. So it really does feel like everything's coming together at one point in time.
I mentioned there Donald Trump's pick to head the SEC, Paul Atkins. We know he's a big advocate of cryptocurrencies and the relaxing of the regulatory environment around them. Do you expect that he might lead the charge in terms of making conditions, certainly in the US, more favourable for crypto?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I guess with the fact that he's been nominated, all anyone talks about is that he's pro-crypto. I think he's just not as sort of old school as his predecessor, Gary Gensler. And certainly it felt like the way that he ran the SEC was to do so with an iron fist when it came to cryptocurrencies. Now, generally, when you see greater rules and regulations, people might not necessarily think that that's great for a decentralized currency like Bitcoin, but ultimately they're laying out a framework within which businesses and individuals can operate within. So it should make it easier for businesses, individuals, to be able to buy and deal within this area. And certainly in the past, it's felt like a number of companies have really been clamped down on it in a meaningful manner. And it's been difficult for many people to be able to get their money into crypto, with many banks actually refusing to send money to certainly brokerages and things like that. So it feels like we're sort of seeing a loosening of the strings, and with greater regulation, so comes a lower chance that we're going to see the same kind of fines that we've been seeing in the past. But also you would think that greater regulation also sees some of the main actors within the realm doing so in a more sort of standardized manner. Generally, you know, we've seen, like, look at what happened with FTX, right? We're not seeing that in the big banks in the same way as we are with the crypto area. So it's sort of a growing up of the crypto sphere when you see the SEC sort of providing that outline within which the businesses are to operate within.
But of all the assets that investors can sink their money into, crypto would have to be perhaps the most volatile at this stage. Do you expect that even in the event that we see a more favourable environment for crypto in the US, will that volatility continue?
I think volatility to a large extent is sort of baked in when it comes to cryptos. I mean, look, ultimately every 4 years it seems to crash about 70, 80%. It depends what you're looking at. If you're looking at the small coins, they can lose 99% of their value. And then you get into a point where we are right now, where some of them are then gaining 40% in a day because they're trying to, people trying to find what's next and what's going to benefit from this latest resurgence. So I do think that volatility is likely a given when it comes to this area. But certainly if you look at the long-term trend, if you look at, say, a monthly chart or something like that, and you look out over many years, you'll see that it does outperform, but we do see these major drawdowns. So certainly anyone that gets into crypto should be comfortable with the idea that they're going to see big volatility. But the long-term trends so far have seen Bitcoin outperform pretty much any asset out there.
Okay, Josh Mahoney, we'll leave it there for now. Great to get your thoughts as always. Thank you. China has banned the export of 3 rare earth minerals to the United States that are crucial in the manufacture of semiconductors. It's the latest salvo in their ongoing tech war, which has seen Washington impose bans on the export of US chips to China in order to cripple the country's tech sector. Pinar Nishasta has the story.
2024 is shaping up to be the year of trade battles. Around the world, countries are turning inward, raising tariffs, imposing bans, and tightening their borders. The list is growing. Indonesia, Canada, Germany, the EU, the US, and now China. Just days ago, President-elect Donald Trump unveiled plans for a 25% tariff on all Chinese imports. This adds to a growing list of restrictions, like the 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, essentially shutting them out of the US market. But it doesn't stop there. Steel and aluminum imports from China, even those routed through Mexico, are also under fire. And now, Beijing is hitting back. As a direct response to Washington's moves targeting Chinese semiconductor firms, Ministry of Commerce said,
"In principle, the export of the relevant dual-use items gallium, germanium, antimony, and super-hard materials to the United States is not permitted."
These minerals are vital, used in semiconductors, solar panels, EV batteries, and even infrared technology. Here's the catch. China produces 94% of world's gallium and 83% of germanium. For industries in the US, this is a problem. Even the OECD warns.
Rising trade tensions and further moves toward protectionism might disrupt supply chains, raise consumer prices, and negatively impact growth.
This feels like a déjà vu. Back in 2018, during the US-China trade war, nationalist protectionism became the norm. The US took the lead, imposing heavy tariffs and banning Huawei from using Android. The ban forced Huawei to create Harmony OS, a move that made it China's second most popular mobile operating system. And the trade war? It didn't close the gap. The US ended 2018 with a record $419 billion trade deficit with China. So, will these new tariffs have the same effect? And are we looking at the death of globalization? Pinar Nishasta, TRT World.
Well, let's get more on this now with Ivan Eland. He's the director of the Center on Peace and Liberty at the Independent Institute. Good to have you back with us, Ivan. We know that this tech war really ramped up under the Biden administration. What's your view? Are we expecting it to get even worse under Donald Trump next year?
Yes, I think it will, because Trump actually put tariffs on and then Biden didn't take them off. And so Trump is already threatening tariffs against China, as you mentioned, and other countries like Mexico and Canada. And that may violate the treaty that the three countries passed. So, yes, protectionism is a force around the world. And the problem with protectionism is one country does it, and then the other countries retaliate. And then all of a sudden, globalization has been undermined or maybe even destroyed. So, and we've had bad luck with that before. The Great Depression was at least aggravated by trade protectionism, the Smoot-Hawley tariffs of 1930.
Well, that's right, because Donald Trump isn't only looking to target China when he assumes power for a second time. He also says that on day one, he'll impose tariffs on exports from Mexico and even Canada. Explain to us, what would be the ramifications of Trump's ramping up of this trade war, not only with Beijing, but with other allies?
Well, of course, it increases the price for consumers in the U.S., and he just ran on an anti-inflation campaign. So that's, it's going to increase the cost to everybody. And because when countries retaliate with their tariffs, they're going to increase the prices to their consumers too. Tariffs, I think economists are pretty much in agreement. They disagree about certain things, but they agree that tariffs are bad because it's people trade because it's mutually beneficial to both foreign companies and the U.S. companies and the countries as a whole. So if you start putting tariffs in and making it more costly because people are retaliating against each other, nobody wins.
When we look at the tech war between the US and China specifically, what's behind that in your view? Because we have seen the Biden administration introduce several measures over the last couple of years curbing the export of US chips to China. What's Washington's motive here?
Well, they say it's national security, and there are some national security considerations, but in trade, when you work in the trade area, you find that they're often exaggerated. And I think really what they're trying to do is stunt China from certain technologies like advanced semiconductors, AI, that sort of thing. And they're trying to restrict chips exports and chip making exports. And that's what they did. And now China is retaliating with these critical mineral exports, which you just mentioned. Gallium and germanium are only two of them. There's also tungsten and a whole bunch of other ones, which are raw materials for U.S. industry. And I think, these embargoes are not airtight, so they'll be able to get them. But of course, the price will, the ultimate cost of all this embargoes and tariffs and everything is higher prices for everybody. And nobody really likes that, and they shouldn't, the people, but the government to do this, and it doesn't help anybody.
Okay, Ivan Eland, we'll have to leave it there for now. Thank you again for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
The largest e-commerce fair, WorldDef, has been held in Dubai. It's brought together industry leaders, entrepreneurs and innovators from 40 countries. Organised by Turkish e-commerce experts, the event was all about exploring the future of online retail and the game-changing role of artificial intelligence. Ömer Bakulolu was there.
It's busy in Dubai with thousands of visitors here to discuss the latest developments in e-commerce. Artificial intelligence is of course a major focus, with experts sharing how it's reshaping the way businesses operate and connect with customers. Panel discussions are also being held to offer a roadmap to navigate the fast-evolving $8 trillion market. Turkish companies are making their mark as well, with more than 85 brands showcasing their expertise and looking to expand their presence in the Middle East, one of the fastest growing e-commerce markets. Earlier, I spoke with WorldDef Vice Chairman Orhan Isayev, and here's what he had to say.
We have actually 3 stages in our event, and Future Commerce stage, Case Study stage, and Masterclass stage. Also, we placed that topic, one of our main topics, AI and the technology side, future technology on e-commerce. It's growing very fast in all over the world about creating the content, then making their business very automatically, very easy, very smooth, And because of, the manpower or human power, there can be some mistakes during the e-commerce process, but because of AI and the technology, they can reduce their problems during the e-commerce business. Therefore, it's very important for us, and as a topics we already placed in our event, and during 2 days, not only the partners and the companies, but also the consumers can use it and learn about e-commerce and get aware. The shipment, payment, and digital marketing side are the top 3 topics of e-commerce ecosystem. And on shipment side, using AI and future tech on e-commerce. It's getting very automated, so automated process during the e-commerce, and making and helping to companies make this business very easy, well automated, well integrated between all parts of the e-commerce, and therefore it's very important for them to use AI.
To France now, where lawmakers have come together from across the political spectrum to fire the government of Prime Minister Michel Barnier. They passed a vote of no confidence just 3 months into his leadership, with his ouster now throwing the country deeper into political crisis, which could impact Europe's third largest economy. Shadia Edwards-Dashti has the story.
French lawmakers have historically voted down the government, marking the brink of political collapse. Prime Minister Michel Barnier's government is France's first to be forced out by a no-confidence vote in more than 60 years.
As the required majority has been reached, the first motion of censure has been adopted.
With no last-minute surprises, the result was inevitable. At a time when France is struggling with an economic deficit, using special powers to force through a budget without parliamentary support was bound to cause controversy. An angry opposition was formed, a far from likely alliance with the far left and far right uniting against the government.
Today, the no-confidence motion appears for us to be a necessity to put an end to the chaos, to protect the French people from a dangerous, unfair and punitive budget which worsens the deficit. The institution forces us to join our voices with those of the extreme left. It is not with joy that we do so, but it's necessary.
Further turmoil is now expected. Barnier will soon be out of a job, but will stay on as caretaker PM till Macron finds a replacement, who will be tasked with getting the budget approved. While that could be sooner rather than later, it still means France is plunged into political and economic uncertainty. It's too late for Barnier, but the finger of blame also points at Macron.
Eh bien, derrière la motion que je porte.
The majority of our fellow citizens are not backing your government. The motion I am submitting will topple your government because you've never found a way to undo the curse inflicted on you by the real person responsible for this situation, Emmanuel Macron. This curse is illegitimacy.
The timing is terrible. This weekend, Macron welcomes world leaders to the reopening of Paris's Notre Dame Cathedral after a fire that damaged it 5 years ago. What could have been a metaphor, like Barnier's promise of a new era for France when he was appointed 3 months ago, has rather become one of the public's trust in the political process being in charred ruins. Shadia Edwards-Dashti, TRT World.
Nigeria is struggling to keep the lights on. Continuous power cuts leave many residents in the dark and businesses without power for up to weeks at a time. How is this impacting the economy, and could renewables solve the problem? Emre Boz takes a look.
Left all in the dark with only a torch to help see the way. And when the lights are out, nobody knows when the power will come back on.
When there is blackout, I get to use my phone light, so I make sure my phone is fully charging in the office.
Power outages are becoming more and more a part of daily life across Nigeria. The country's power grid is creaking due to aging power lines and a lack of gas supply for its thermal plants. This year alone, the grid was either partially or fully shut down 11 times. Economic losses from the shortages are estimated to cost $26 billion a year. And the lack of electricity adds to the challenges faced by Nigerians, already going through one of the worst cost of living crises. Inflation this year has been on an upward trend, hitting a 4-month high of nearly 34% in October. So are renewables an option for Nigerians? For smaller businesses and households, rising prices and stagnant incomes makes this an expensive option.
Globally, price of renewable, especially solar panel, was dropping as per the dollar price, but the naira was depreciating faster than the drop. So the naira kind of cancels out any reduction that you see in the dollar distinct price. If you look at where the minimum wage is, so you ask yourself, how many months will the person save before he or she is able to afford to get a solar system? They may need to save their minimum wage for 1 year And that also may still not be good enough.
Some analysts talk about banks or even the government financing solar systems for consumers who can't afford them. But 80% of Nigeria's power currently comes from off-grid diesel and petrol generators. So many Nigerians have no other choice but to use old-fashioned fossil fuels. Emre Boz, TRT World.
Volkswagen workers are rallying against the company's sweeping cost-cutting plans, which could include factory closures and layoffs. The potential cuts mark a major shift for the German automaker and a significant departure from Volkswagen's long-standing job protection pledge. Lara Kilic-Arslan has the story.
Thousands of people across Germany make their voices heard following Volkswagen's drastic cost-cutting program. This is the first large-scale walkout at the company's domestic operations since 2018.
I believe we must fight for what we deserve. It's unacceptable that it's always us, the little people, who are the losers. We have to fight for our jobs and our future, and for the people who will follow in our footsteps. 20 years ago, we saw the same drama. Already at the time we accepted wage cuts, and now it's back to zero.
The protests come amid a challenging period for European car makers. Weak demand, rising production costs, growing competition from Chinese rivals, and a sluggish electric vehicle transition have all put the industry under pressure. Last month, VW reported a 64% drop in quarterly net profit. Europe's largest car maker has seen stocks fall more than 60% since 2021. Market capitalization is now just over $40 billion. The figure is not only below Chinese rivals like BYD and Xiaomi, but also other European makers like Ferrari, which is worth double. Now, the company argues it's essential to reduce costs and protect market share amid falling profits, threatening factory closures in Germany for the first time in its 87-year history. Workers are concerned about plant closures and further wage cuts.
It's like in soccer. In soccer, the coach is fired if the team doesn't win. Here it's the other way around. That's unacceptable.
Once seen as an engine of German economic growth, Volkswagen is now at a crossroads. The labor action has initially begun so-called warning strikes that last a few hours. But union members could then vote to escalate to 24-hour strikes or longer. Talks are scheduled to continue on December 9th. Daniela Cavallo, head of Volkswagen's Works Council, says the next round of talks could be a crucial turning point.
Let's see how the employer's side presents itself. I'm pretty sure that this round of negotiations on December the 9th will set the course. Rapprochement or escalation, we're prepared for both.
With its iconic cars, Volkswagen was once a symbol of freedom and reliability. But the road ahead for the German automaker is now looking a lot more troubled. Lara Kılıçarslan, TRT World.
Well, the cat is out of the bag. The iconic British luxury car maker Jaguar has revealed its new branding as the car industry shifts towards electric. It's stepping into a new era, moving past what it calls traditional automotive stereotypes to a futuristic and groundbreaking dawn. Pinar Nishasta reports.
Take your breath away at Earl's Court is the shining...
A century-old British legacy is turning the page. Jaguar has announced that its iconic logo is history. The Wildcat will be replaced by the word Jaguar in the company's new unique font. The carmaker has been financially struggling for a long time due to Chinese dominance in the global market as the industry pushes towards electric. Around a month ago, Jaguar removed all social media posts, signaling a brand new start with "Copy Nothing" motto. Later on, they released a teaser of their new era, which will completely transform the Jaguar brand, calling the new family of Jaguars unlike anything anyone has ever seen.
So much disruption going on in the market, we really needed to understand the absolute core DNA of Jaguar. That's what we need to do to face the electrified world in the future. And in doing so, we look at actually its bold creativity, its need to have an emotional connection with its audience, and that's exactly what you see here.
The luxury car brand also unveiled a new concept car, the Type 00. The car is a fully electric with no rear window and a dystopic design inside out. The new logo stands proudly embossed amidst a series of horizontal lines at the front of the long nose of the car.
I think what they've done now with the new Type 00 is absolutely embrace the avant-garde. They're diving into the future. I think the signs are that the design, that's all we've seen so far, the design is it's interesting, it's head-turning, it's quite challenging actually. It will maybe deter traditionalists, but this kind of Marmite design vibe is what seems to work nowadays.
The production-ready version of the Type 00 will be revealed late in 2025 and is expected to cost more than $120,000. Time will tell whether Jaguar's bold move will attract more customers. But for now, car enthusiasts seem to think there is a lot to pore over. Pinar Nishasta, TRT World.
Well, that is all from Money Talks for now. From me and the whole team here in Istanbul, thanks for watching. Bye for now.